You can buy a Ferrari, or you can buy a beach house that pays you to own it. Seriously, can you guess which one of these had a total cost of just under $220,000 and I just bought it? Hello again, this is Douglas Lucky Larson on the Retire Early and Often channel. And as you know, we discuss the most important components of retirement and how you can actually implement these things into your life right now to create more fulfillment and freedom. So if you've watched my videos at all, you know that although I like cars and toys and doing fun things, I am not likely to spend over $200,000 on a car that would then require high insurance premiums, high maintenance costs, and is not likely to put money back in my pocket. Even if I were to rent it out on Turo, for instance. Personally, I know people who rent their cars, luxury and other cars, on Turo, and they do pretty well. Still, even if you paid cash for a car like this, I know that expensive sports cars on Turo do just barely better than break even. You're not getting rich because those cars, they don't rent all the time. Basically, the people who own cars like this and put them on Turo, they break even and get to basically drive a really cool car for maybe 10 or 14 days a month. Again, for almost free. Instead of fancy cars, by purchasing a cute little house 4 blocks from the beach in Northeast Florida, I will be bringing in a monthly net of about $1,500 after taxes and insurance and all other costs. So whenever I take a trip to the area to check on my rental property, of course, I get to enjoy the sand and surf, and it's a business tax deduction. So why buy a rental house over 2,000 miles away from where I currently live in Utah instead of a cool car that I could drive quite often? And why a blue house? As a real estate investor, we don't always get to choose all of our favorite features if we're buying something specifically for cash flow. This cute little blue house I was able to purchase for about 25 or 30% under market value. It was on a website called InvestorLift, and I paid cash and closed very quickly. I wouldn't intentionally paint a house this color, but it came this color, and it is a cool beach vibe. You have to admit that it's pretty crisp with that blue and white contrast. Let's zoom in just a little bit here. You can see from some of these little features that this 2-bedroom house with a little fireplace, a decent little kitchen. It's a cute house. It's just a little under, what is it? A little under 1,100 square feet, and it's only 4 blocks from a really nice beach in Daytona, as you can see down here on this map. If I sold it right now, I might make a quick $60,000 on a quick flip, but I'd rather keep it in a rental portfolio and hopefully gain some appreciation over the next 5 or 8 years while collecting rent and using deductions and depreciation all along the way. Just for fun and for comparison's sake, I looked at all the blue sports cars that showed up on cars.com for about the same price as my very blue little beach house. I only looked at cars that were right about the same price, right about $200,000, a little over, a little under, and because that's what I paid for the house. There are some pretty cool options for cars, and I love nice cars, but really, a sweet ride is probably not going to make me any more money. If I pulled up in a Ferrari, for instance, to talk to a tenant, do you think they're going to like me more or less? Probably a lot less, especially every time they send in a rent payment while thinking about me in my blue Ferrari or my blue Porsche 911 or my blue Maserati or my G Wagon. How about that guy? Or a brand new 2023 Chevy Corvette Z06. That guy has only 11 miles on it. Or how about a 2021 Bentley Continental for right about $200,000. How about this guy at the bottom, this Audi R8? Beautiful car, 216K. Wow. All right, some pretty cool options. And I'm sure they're all super fun. Until you get the maintenance bills or find out that your insurance premiums are going to be sky high, especially if, like me, you have a teenage driver in the house. Yikes. Now, would a fancy car bring me more deals? Probably not. Could I make money off of a fancy car, like on Turo? Again, maybe. But usually you need a city environment where visitors want to flex just a bit when they pull up to fancy restaurants or clubs. You know, places like Miami or LA or New York. Well, Salt Lake City is not really that kind of town, which is just fine by me. You couldn't pay me enough to live in LA or New York, maybe Miami in the right area, but that's another story. Now, I actually used to own a Jag XK. It was a fun car. It was not $200,000. It was a couple years old, but it was a fun car to drive. It was beautiful to look at, but it was higher maintenance and insurance, and it just wasn't a very practical car. A two-door coupe, and especially when you've got kids in car seats and a garage that's already full of toys and lawn equipment, etc., and you're always afraid that your little baby, your car, is going to get scratched. Nope, no fancy cars for me. Really, I'd rather have another great asset that brings in money and gives me tax breaks through depreciation, tax deductions, and goes up in value over time through appreciation. Now, some of the smart, old rich guys that I know, they've gotten to a point in life where they have all the assets that they need, and now they want to own a fancy car or a fancy overpriced toy. So again, if they're smart, what they very often do is they still buy that house for $200,000 or $300,000, whatever it is, and they take the monthly rent from that investment and then they lease the toy. That way, they've still got all the benefits of the rental property with tax benefits and appreciation, and basically your tenants are paying for your toys. Now that's smart. Now, all of this so far assumes that you're paying cash for either a rental property or a fancy toy. Now, if you add financing, debt as a way to, fund either one of these, the house is way better. A house like mine in Daytona could still give a positive cash flow if you had, say, 20% down and financed about $170K. Your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance would be about $1,700, and that's assuming that your interest is around or maybe a little bit under 7%, which is kind of the going rate right now. You can get it lower if you do some buy down points and things, but let's just say about 7%. Now, rent should be about $1,850 or $1,900. $1,900 is what I'm getting for this little blue house. And although that's not great cash flow, in 10 years, I can't see how you wouldn't be happy that you owned a house. Rent will go up, and your cash flow of $150,000 or $200,000 will easily go up to $300 or $500 or $700 per month in 8 or 10 years' time. Now, sure, you can argue that a hurricane might wreck the place, or that your tenants might burn it down, or that rising sea levels will put all of Florida underwater. But if that happens, there will be way bigger problems to worry about in your life. All I've heard my whole life is that we're going to be facing another imminent disaster, and it's right around the corner. People who wait and cower in fear because of the next possible disaster, they never do anything. They basically have 20 or 30 years of the same year over and over for 20 or 30 years. Now, investors and entrepreneurs may risk a lot, but with proven investment models like real estate, they will have 20 or 30 years of growth, and they don't need to look back with regrets that they didn't invest in that company or buy that rental property or start that business. Now, I really do mean that my whole life, all I've heard is that one big disaster after another is just about to devour the earth and every living thing. I'm a Gen Xer, and I was born during the Cold War, and it seemed like every movie had a Russian villain, Bond movie style, who was about to push the big red button that would unleash nuclear disaster and annihilate everything. Other movies were made about this very thing and insisted that even by accident we could have complete and utter nuclear annihilation. Movies like War Games had a real effect on me when I was young. There were always warnings of imminent world drought and famine throughout the 80s. We also heard about the ozone layer being depleted and that giant holes in this ozone were getting bigger and bigger, and that soon the sun's radiation would make it literally impossible to go outside. I remember huge headlines about Muammar Gaddafi and other villains of the Middle East, and that just about the time of my high school graduation, it was likely that there would be a reinstatement of the draft. Everyone was going to be going to war. And what would happen then? In the late 90s, we had a tech boom, but also imminent Y2K. Now, that was all over the headlines, and it was the impending threat hanging over our heads that somehow, when the clock turned from 1999 to 2000, that all computers would melt down, and that we would be cast back into the Stone Ages. Well, then, 9/11, 2001, came along with terrorist attacks on American soil. This was serious, and we had many years of war after that, and then fear of retaliation from the countries in the Middle East that we were then upsetting. Oh, the real estate boom and then economic bust between 2005 through 2010 cemented economic fears for many people, and they chose to stay on the sidelines and not get involved in real estate or anything within any kind of financial investing. The 2020 pandemic was another big event, and it only was made bigger and worse by government reactions around the world. And here we are in the second half of 2023 with everyone talking about impending recession, imminent housing crash, and likely a stock market bust as well. Now, any of these might happen, along with a zombie apocalypse. And you can hide in your closet or dig a bunker in your backyard, or maybe go out and invest the best you can with the knowledge that you currently have. On channels like this and others, you can learn even more about investing and building a brighter future. Well, that's what I choose to do. I'm not going to cower in fear. You must also strengthen relationships and do other things that matter most in this world. Trust me, the long-term stability of real estate investing, especially if you do so to help your family finances, will be of much greater benefit long-term than any Ferrari or fancy car. I'm sure my point has gotten across. Now, keep another couple things in mind. 1, I am not your financial advisor. I'm just a guy on YouTube. Only you can know what's best for you. Finally, no amount of real estate or cash flow or money in your bank account will bring you true happiness. I believe in God and that He has a plan of happiness for all of us. Working and investing smarter can free up more time to really then make a difference in the lives of others. We all have a bigger purpose than just money or things. Good people help others within their sphere of influence, using their time and their talents, even their money. I love this quote by Robert Kiyosaki. He says, "Don't follow your passion. That usually gets you in trouble. Instead, find and follow your purpose." Now that's my rant. And if you want to know more, please like and subscribe and share our content with other people. I hope to see you soon on another video, like one of these two down below. Thanks again for watching.